Hello, my dear listeners. Hello, my dear friends. How are you all? I hope you are doing best to serve your duties with utmost honesty and love. And we are going to be successful in this sadhana with the blessings and with the kripa. This is the word which mercy, not mercy, I must say, with the kripa or blessings from Almighty. So let's start our journey through the life of our master Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa. So right now we are going to see what was the concept or what actually Pandit Shivnath Shastri thought about him, uh, about his point of view on our master Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa. So let's proceed. But he had sincere respect for the master. He writes, I have seldom come across any other man in whom the hunger and thirst for spiritual life was so great and who had passed through so many privations and sufferings in the religious practices. I was convinced that he was no longer a sadhaka or a devotee under exercise, but was a siddha purusha or one who had attained direct vision of spiritual truth. My acquaintance with him, though short, strengthened many a spiritual thought in me. I owe him a depth of gratitude for the sincere affection he bore me. He was certainly one of the most remarkable personalities I have come across in life. Another leading Brahmo who profited by contact with Sri Ramakrishna was Trilokunath Shannal, the famous singer and composer of Keshab's Samaj, better known under the pseudonym of Chiramjeev Sharma. He was deeply attracted by the master who loved him too. His emotions at seeing him so often in the superconscious state gave him themes for many devotional songs, which later touched thousands of hearts in Bengal. Amusing situations arose now and then. We give here an instance. Though the incident happened some years later, Trilokunath wrote a life of Keshab in which he said that Sri Ramakrishna, after his contact with Keshab, modified his views about the householder's life. That he admitted it was possible to attain spirituality even by living in the world. The devotees of the Master, of whom there were a number by this time, wanted this point cleared up. One day, Trilokun met the Master at the house of Balaram Bose. We shall hear of him later on in Calcutta, and Girish Chandra Ghosh, the actor dramatist, raised the topic. Sri Ramakrishna to Triloko and others. To one who has attained the bliss of God, the world tastes as without salt. One who has a costly shawl cares no longer for a piece of broadcloth. Triloko, I am talking only of householders, not monks. Sri Ramakrishna. What is all this that you are saying? Those who advocate practicing religion while leading the worldly life, if they once taste the bliss of God, lose their relish for the world. All their enthusiasm for work vanishes gradually as the bliss becomes more and more intense. They cannot work and they seek that bliss alone. Can the pleasures of the senses compare with the bliss of God? Once a man tastes it, he runs wildly after it. Then who cares about the world? There may be innumerable lakes and rivers and seas full of water, but the Chatak won't drink that water, though it be drying of thirst. It would be waiting for a drop of rain under the constellation of Swati. All other water is like dust to it. They talk of harmonizing religion and enjoyment. When a man drinks just a little, he may see things in their proper order, but he can't do so if he is dead drunk. When a man tastes of the bliss of God, no other pleasure appeals to him. Then talk of lust and wealth is galling. The man becomes mad for God and has no liking for money, etc. Triloko. If a man lives in the world, he must accumulate some money. He has to practice charity, Sri Ramakrishna. What? First accumulation of money and then God. And how great is their charity and kindness? They spend thousands of rupees in the marriage of their daughters, but the next door neighbor with his family may be starving and they feel constrained in giving him a handful of rice. They have to think long before doing so. While people are starving, they think, never mind whether neighbors live or die, it is of little consequence to me. Let me and my family live well. And they talk of kindness to all beings. Triloko. Among householders also there are good men. Pundarika Vidyanidhi, the followers of Sri Chaitanya, was a householder. Sri Ramakrishna, he had drunk of the bliss of God up to his neck. Had he drunk a little more, he could not have lived a householder's life. Triloko kept silent. Girish, then what you have written in your book is wrong. Triloko, why doesn't he admit that a man may be religious even while in the world? Sri Ramakrishna, he may, but he must live in it after the attainment of knowledge, after the realization of God. Then he remains unaffected by the evils of the world. Girish then broached the topic of divine incarnation. Triloko. God is incarnated in his devotees alone. The infinite power is not and cannot be manifested through man, however great he may be. Girish. You worship children as Brahma Gopala, God in the form of boys, and can you not worship a saint as God? Sri Ramakrishna. 2. Triloko. Why do you bring it in the infinite? If I have to touch you, must I touch your whole body? If I want to bathe in the Ganges, must I touch the whole river from Hardwar up to Shagor Island? So long as there is the I, there is duality. The existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute is an ocean within which is the pitcher of I. So long as there is the pitcher, the water seems to be separate. One portion is inside the pitcher and the other outside. When the pitcher breaks, there is one mass of water, and that cannot be expressed in words. Who will do so? The master then spoke personally with Triloko. He said, why, you are already having the bliss of God, aren't you? Triloko. No, sir. As soon as I go away, I shall be just as I was before. Now I am in a fine mood. Sri Ramakrishna. If one has shoes on, one need not be afraid of thorns. If one has the conviction that God alone is real and all else is unreal, one need not dread the influence of lust and wealth. When Triloko left, the master said to Girish and others, do you know what they are like? A frog was born in a well. It never saw the earth, so it would not believe that there was such a thing as the earth. They have had no taste of the bliss of God, and so they are talking of the world and so on. To Girish, why do you waste your breath in arguing with them? They are going in for both world and God unless they have actual experience of divine bliss. They cannot understand it. It doesn't matter. They are not to blame. Everyone cannot comprehend the absolute. Only a dozen rishis appreciated Ramachandra. All cannot grasp him. Some take him for an ordinary man and some for a saint, while just a few know him as an incarnation. People make offers according to their capital. A gentleman said to his servant, "Take this diamond to the market and let me know what prices are offered for it. First, take it to the brinjal seller." The servant did so. The brinjal seller turned the diamond over in his hand and said, "I'll give you 9 shades of brinjal for it." The servant said, "Brother, go just a little higher, offer 10 shades." The man replied, "No, I have offered more than the market rate. If you agree, all right." The servant smiled and taking the diamond returned to his master and made his report. The gentleman said, "Very well. Now go to the cloth dealer. The other man deals only in brinjal, so what can he know about diamonds? The cloth dealer has more capital, and I should like to know what he says on the matter." The servant went to the cloth dealer and said, "What will you give for this?" The man said, "It is a good stone and can be made into a fine ornament. I'll give you 900 rupees for it." The servant said, "Can't you give a little more, say 1,000?" The cloth dealer said, "Let us not discuss the matter further. I have already offered more than its market value. I cannot give you more than 900." The servant returned and narrated his experience to his master, who said, "Now go to the jeweler. Let us have his quotation." The jeweler looked at it and said at once, "I shall give you 100,000 for it." They talk of leading a religious life while living as householders. But that is like a man sitting in a closed room with just a ray of light peeping through an aperture in the roof. Can one see the sun if the roof be overhead? What good is one ray of light? Last and wealth are the roof. Can one see the sun without removing the roof? Worldly people are imprisoned, so to say, in the room. The avatars and persons of their stamp are a divine group. They roam in the open air. They are never caught in the world, never imprisoned. Their ego is not dense like that of worldly people. The ego of the latter is like a world enclosure with a roof. Nothing outside can be seen. The ego of the avatara is a thin one through which God is constantly visible. Suppose a man is standing by a wall on both sides of which are endless stretches of open space. If there be a hole in the wall, that man can see the other side also. And if the hole be large enough, he can pass and repass through it. The ego of the avatara may be linked to that wall with a very large hole in it. From either side of the wall, the avatara has a view of the endless stretch of open space on the other side. That is to say, even though they are incarnated in flesh, they are always in yoga. Again, whenever they wish, they may go to the other side to become merged in samadhi. If the hole be large enough, they can pass and repass through it. They can come down to the same to the sense plane from the state of samadhi. They can come down to the sense plane from the state of samadhi. Sri Ramakrishna's contact with the members of the Brahmo Samaj gave him the first opportunity to study the mentality of the educated community of Bengal, from which later came the chief instruments for the propagation of his ideas. Born and brought up in a rural atmosphere and passing his youth in a series of stormy sadhanas, he had had no opportunity of coming in contact with the educated middle class, the pioneers of every progressive movement in the country. He knew little of the steadily growing influence of the West upon the minds of the people. His own life was not touched by it. He realized the goal of life by following the ancient Hindu methods. He was a Hindu of Hindus. To him, renunciation was the first and last word in religion. In this, he admitted no compromise. It was the Brahmos who first gave him an idea of the way the wind was blowing. He saw that they were more influenced by the philosophers of the West than by the seers and prophets of India. Hence, they found the greatest difficulty in accepting wholly the ancient truths of the Hindu religion, even though his own life vividly illustrated them. They had made a strange mixture of God and the world, which he found it difficult to dislodge from their minds. He was not at all dismayed by this state of things. Behind this, too, he saw the hand of God. So, with undiminished love, he told the Brahmos all about his realizations and gave out the essence of his teachings, such as the necessity of renunciation, the sincere pursuit of one's own course of discipline, faith in God, the performance of one's duties in the world without thought of results, and discrimination between right and wrong. Knowing their minds, he allowed them freedom to take as much or as little of his teachings as they liked. He thought that would be enough under the circumstances. His eagerness to meet the mother's children of renunciation who would grasp his teaching fully increased 100-fold after this experience. So, my dear friends, today we are ending this chapter. We will start a new chapter from the life of our master Sri Ramakrishna Paramhansa Dev. But before ending this episode, I must say I'm really grateful that today I can read it out for us, for the enlightenment that, okay, yes, if we have tested, uh, that one day we are going to taste the Amrit, right? Nectar. But it is the Almighty, it is the formless or formed, whatever the form or formless, Nirakar, Sakar, whatever it is, but or he is or she is, one day we are going to, one day we are one. We are going to be. So, with this hope, with this faith, today I am stopping here. We will meet again with a new chapter, with a new journey. Till then, be happy, be jolly, and keep praying. Shubhamastu.